Okay, back at you here on the Morning Brew, and we've refilled our cups, and we've got our guest, and I think we're set. Aaron Muffaletto, Larry Aarons, and our guest is Rachel Sams. Rachel is managing editor of Albuquerque Business First, and there she is.
All right.
Hey, Rachel, how are you?
Good, good. Great to be back. Thanks for having me.
Glad
Thanks
you
for
got
being
up early
here.
to start the week with us. Thanks.
It's a pleasure.
Okay, Aaron, we're going to dive in on some topics here.
Oh, so the government shutdown, of course,
Serious.
that's a huge topic,
Yeah, heavy.
especially in New Mexico.
Definitely. It's really interesting. Forbes actually came out last week with a study of the top 10 cities around the country that were going to be most affected by a government shutdown economically. And Albuquerque was right in there at number 9.
Oh my gosh.
And the study was based on the percentage of local wages that come from the government. Of course, we have a lot of government jobs here with the national labs, with the base, and all sorts of things. So we're already seeing some impacts for sure. So far, Sandia and Los Alamos are pretty much operating as normal. We haven't seen big furloughs there or anything. They both have some money from their previous fiscal year that they're able to operate on for a while at least. Sandia has about a month's worth of those funds.
Okay.
And
good
Los
to know.
Alamos has a little bit less. They actually have about a week. So they're probably going to have to start making some decisions soon about will they find other funding? Will they have to do maybe a partial shutdown, furloughs, that sort of thing. So we'll probably be seeing some news on that pretty soon. Of course, there's been furloughs at Kirtland and furloughs at some of the agencies like the BLM here. So those are people who aren't getting their paychecks. That's always a big hit. And then we've seen just lots of other, it's amazing kind of the ripple effects that a shutdown has. I think a lot of people, maybe if you don't work for the government, you might think, oh, well, this doesn't affect me. Let them fight it out. You know, they'll figure it out eventually. But the longer it goes on, the more ways it's likely to affect you.
Sure.
We're starting to see people who are applying for homes, that process being held up. A lot of lenders do income verifications through the IRS to make sure that a borrower makes the money that they say they're making.
Right.
So with the IRS shut down, that's a lot of home loan applications just sitting on somebody's desk, not getting processed. And it's the same for small businesses too. The Small Business Administration is part of the shutdown, of course, so that means millions and millions of dollars in loan applications just sitting there, businesses not able to get the funding they need to hire or expand. And the longer it goes on, the more of a challenge it's going to be.
That's such a good point. I didn't even think of that area.
Yeah, it's amazing. We even saw a really kind of weird one last week as far as impacts from the shutdown. A private company called Up Aerospace was going to do a launch at the spaceport.
Right.
Now, the spaceport is a state facility. It's open. But as Up Aerospace was trying to schedule their final preparations, they couldn't reach the FAA, the folks who controlled the White Sands airspace that they were going to be flying through.
Interesting.
Not available, so they had to scrub the launch. And you're just going to see, I think, more and more of those kinds of things that you might not even have thought about being impacted by the government
Now,
shutdown.
it's interesting, last week on October 1st, my father had an appointment at the VA, so I took him out there.
Right.
And they were going full bore.
Yeah, the VA is mostly operating as normal. They are one where there have been some program impacts, but by and large, they're still operating as normal. But even those agencies, and it's the same with the labs, if this continues on and on, those agencies that have an extra source of funding they can tap into, eventually that's going to get worn down. And it's a real challenge for Albuquerque because we're already kind of lagging coming out of the recession. You know, we haven't been growing jobs as fast as the other states around us and growing jobs fast enough to replace all the ones that we lost. So the longer this goes on and is another drag on the economy, it's creating some real challenges.
Now, I heard, I believe it was Friday or Saturday, that Congress passed a measure so people will get paid who are furloughed. So I'm curious, how does that play a part now? I mean, I did hear some people are going back to work, but I mean, I don't understand. So are some people staying at home, or how is that working?
Confusing.
It is very confusing. I think what a lot of the lawmakers have been trying to do is push through piecemeal funding that might fund maybe a program in their district that's really important. And overall, Congress doesn't seem to be very receptive to that. So the the battle now, it seems like, is to come to an agreement where either everything's on or everything's off, because doing it piecemeal is such a struggle and so confusing. And as far as hope for that, it's kind of tricky. It seems like things might drag on for a while. We do have the October 17th deadline coming up with the debt deadline.
Right.
And it seems like that might be one that Congress isn't willing to let go, that they might have to come to an agreement by then. But even that isn't for sure.
So the question came up, and I'm going to answer my own question here. Somebody asked me over the weekend, said, so if the government shut down, why is Obamacare still going?
So
and
Obamacare,
the answer is it's mandatory spending.
Right.
So I didn't know that. But that's a great question to ask. So how I understand our health exchange is doing better than most around the country. For once. Huh?
It's been really interesting. Last week there was just a big week as far as news going on that impacts business. You had all the shutdown stuff, and you have the healthcare exchanges. Last week was the first week of the exchanges, which is a big piece of healthcare reform, Obamacare, that push to get a lot more people insured. The healthcare exchanges are just a system that's been set up to help people enroll for coverage. And it really was a tale of two different situations with the federal healthcare exchange and ours. New Mexico actually did a hybrid exchange. We piggybacked on the federal exchange for individuals just because there was really a limited amount of time to set up a lot of our own system.
Right.
So we're using the federal exchange for individuals. We did set up our own state exchange for small businesses.
Right.
And at the federal level, there was a lot of glitches. There were long waits to get access to log on or call in. So that was a big struggle. The administration kind of used that as a way to say, hey, this is a good thing. They said there were these delays because 1 million people tried to access the exchange by 7 a.m. on the first day.
Wow.
So they were using that to make an argument to say that a lot of people really do want this
Now they've
coverage.
got to pull it off. They closed it down over the weekend.
Right.
The proof, a lot of tech experts are saying that they've had 3 years to get ready for this. What's the matter with them?
They've got a really tough challenge to meet for sure, and they're going to have to scramble to catch up with even where they thought they would be as far as being able to execute on it.
This week will be interesting.
For sure. And here on the state level with the small business exchange, things seem to go a lot more smoothly. We were in contact all last week with officials over there. They were reporting short wait times, able to answer calls in just a couple of minutes.
Did you get any numbers?
We did. In the first 24 hours, about 300 businesses signed up.
Oh.
Yeah, and it just continued throughout the week. There was a lot of interest, a lot of people signing up. And we actually, one of our reporters, Dennis Domzalski, found a small business owner here in town, Michael Cadigan, the lawyer.
Yeah.
He signed up his business for the exchange, and he said he actually was able to find a plan that's going to save him $1,000 a month. So that got a lot of interest. People were really reading that and sharing it and interested to see what kind of options might be out there for businesses on the exchange, just because that is such a huge cost for business owners providing health care, and people want to save.
And that is good news, but I've also heard some people who've had their insurance prices go up.
For sure. There's a lot of observers are thinking that there's no way that we'll be able to go through this process without costs going up because we'll be covering so many more people.
Right.
So there are definitely a lot of economic challenges there.
This is going to be a week-to-week story, don't you think?
Absolutely. It's really unfolding by the week, and especially with this shutdown, sometimes by the day and the minute.
Yeah.
So it's just, stay tuned, and there'll be lots more
it's like
to come.
a big soap opera. The next episode,
our government really is like a soap opera.
It really is.
These days.
We got all this drama going on. Anything else on I noticed solar energy is on the cover of the issue this week.
We had a really interesting look at, this is kind of a way to talk about some of the growth potential in Albuquerque's economy. We're talking about what are we going to do to get beyond just government jobs. This week we looked at renewable energy. The state put some rules in place several years ago to really try and grow that, and it's working. We've got 25,000 people employed in renewable energy in the state already, and there are tons of new projects being announced every day. The challenge is that we our transmission system to get power around the state and out of the state is pretty constrained. It needs more capacity to move power around. So there are several new projects that have been proposed, and it's just a matter of can those people get those projects through? Can they get them up and running to get the power to where it needs to go? But it really is an industry with a lot of potential for jobs for our state. And since everybody's kind of looking at what's next so that we don't have to depend on the government and we don't have to be hanging on pins and needles with things like shutdowns. How can we grow our own, basically?
Very quickly, Rachel, people need to subscribe to this Albuquerque Business First. We have the website up, and
Absolutely.
It's both online and in a print edition. And if you want to know what's going on in the business beat, you guys are it.
We try. We try. We're working hard every day.
I'm a subscriber, so I'm a big fan. So you guys should subscribe too.
Great job, Rachel. Thank you for condensing a couple of difficult stories right down to it. Okay.
Thanks for